Do you know the toxic tale of poison green? Hello comrades, I'm here today with another episode to tell you a grim, bleak story. Dark as the gown that would leave you with rashes, short breath, and they would bring death to the fashionable Victorian socialites and beyond. I love Victorian balls and their very peculiar etiquette. So imagine you walking to a Victorian ballroom, high ceiling with your glowy, vivid green dress, and it's more than a fashion statement, it's actually a chemical hazard in disguise. Contrary to today's very safe colors, these hues, skillet green and Paris green, owe their allure to copper arsenite. This compound was bringing life to vivid curtains and luscious wallpapers and dazzling fabrics, even candles. But behind that vivid glowy green lurked a danger that would make the bravest and most fashion-obsessed shudder. Back in the 18th century in the UK, that was the most popular color. To be fair, it's a reoccurring trend because it's my absolute favorite color this year. It's back in 2025, you can see it in the background, you can see it on me. Designers couldn't get enough of these items. Salons and showrooms are boasted with this magical pigment. The problem is that the same compound that made this green so vivid, it was responsible for various health issues. Factory workers, dyers, artisans, even painters that famously straighten up their brush with a lip touch, were at risk of arsenic poisoning every single day. In 1861, a 19-year-old Matilda Sawyer died tragically of arsenic poisoning. Her job was to decorate headdresses. These hats, let's say, they had flowers on them, and she was responsible to decorate the petals. So she was blowing this arsenic powder onto the petals to get colored, and she was inhaling great deals of arsenic powder for a long period of time. A year after her gruesome death, renowned chemist Dr. Hoffman published an article in the Times called The Dance of Death. His article drew a lot of attention to the huge weight of arsenic that was carried in garments, in ball gowns and headdresses and so on in order to achieve this perfect vivid green. Cartoons of skeletons were dancing around with these green dresses, or they would show you their fancy garments to emphasize of how dangerous this is. Well, may the fascinating wearer of it be called the killing creature. She actually carries in her skirts poison enough to slay the whole of the admirers she may meet within half a dozen ballrooms. British Medical Journal, February 1862. Just now imagine if we had medical journals today telling us about diseases through poems. You can give him age, but yeah, I'll tell you a poem about it, it will be cute. There's almost a legendary mystique quality in the idea of donning a garment that can kill. Think of the Greek mythology. Hercules' wife Deianira thought Hydra's venomous blood was actually working as a love potion. So she took a tonic, dipped it into the blood and gave it to Hercules. When he wore it, the blood literally burned his flesh, causing excruciating pain, and led him to build his own funeral pyre. He died. Think of Medea when she dispatched her rival in a gown that burned like acid. There are a lot of examples in fairy tales and in myths about this notion of something so beautiful, like a piece of clothing, like a shoe, like a corset, that will bring death. It's also very dramatic and unforgettable. That's why I think they use it so much. Anyway, back to our story. There were a lot of green dyes that were completely arsenic free, right? But so many people read the article about poison green, and that obviously drew a lot of attention, and they started throwing the garments away. But most of them did not, because in the Victorian era, the new industrialized world, we could see new chemicals coming out every week, and they were completely unregulated. There was a notorious incident of a confectioner who mixed the sugar with arsenic powder and literally poisoned over 200 people, killing 20 children. And it wasn't the garments, because you could die from sneezing too hard. It was the Victorian era. Everything was unregulated. They had hand-dug wells, they had creek water, they had unregulated pretty much everything. The food was contaminated with arsenic. If you have sources of water or food near gold miners, then there is arsenic-rich soil, and it would transfer to leaves, to kettle, to pretty much everything. So people were dying all the time, but they would still blame the fashion girlies. Like, this injustice from the 18th century has to stop, because at least my fashion girlies were protected, were cocooned in petticoats and undergarments that actually the dress had minimal contact with the skin, so it was pretty safe. It was the lower classes that suffered the most. The guys who were installing wallpapers, the factory workers, the laundress, like people that would die anyway by the age of 30. Have you ever heard of the yellow wallpaper tale? Same story, guys. One girl, she was suffering from hysteria, allegedly, that was locked in a room with arsenic all around her. She was inhaling this dust every single day. That was causing her skin wart-like eruptions and acute shock. And then they would still couldn't find the cause of her hysteria. In this context, everyday objects could become poison factories. Despite the horror stories that circulated, often exaggerating isolated incidents to full-blown epidemics, there was a very little chance of arsenic poisoning from a gown, because there are many layers again between the skin and the garment. It was more on stockings, if we were talking about stockings, or the flower petals of the hats, yes, because they had higher amounts of arsenics as well. Ultimately, these tales served as a double-edged commentary. It was a mockery to the excesses and the vanity of high fashion, while at the same time, it was flagging the risky nature of the industrialized world. Today, with very strict regulations and our knowledge in toxicology, we can feel more safe than ever and more stylish than ever, I will say, in our greens. It's comforting to know that poison green is just a grim story, a footnote in the history of fashion books. In a world today that Pantone's color of the year can set the trends, you know for a fact that your green dress or your green jacket will not have you melting like a gothic heroine, and you're not gonna go completely cuckoo in a green room. And I'm in danger of that. My stories raise very interesting questions about the fashion today. Killer fashion is still very much in vogue. In 2009, in Turkey, they banned sandblasting. Sandblasting is the process of throwing sand on denim with a lot of pressure, and you're creating this distressed effect. That was causing the factory workers' silicosis. It's essentially a disease that is caused for having sand inside your lungs. And it's not curable, there is no medication for it, and you obviously cannot take a vacuum, stick it in the worker's mouth and suck all the sand out. That's not how it works. Last year, Al Jazeera revealed that they're still doing it in China. And it's crazy to me how you know, with facts, that this process is causing people a non-curable horrible disease and you're still doing it. Then we had the Shein, Temu, and Alibaba scandal, where they use phthalates and some other compounds that are way above the regulations. So Seoul revealed it, and then the EU said, okay, we're gonna have stricter rules around importation, but they didn't take out the products from the websites, even though these toxins were higher than permitted. Now, I have a question for you. Do you think that the EU strictened their rules and they're checking more these brands because they care about our health? Or is it because they hold now the lion's share in the customer base? Let me know in the comments, and if you really like this video, you can subscribe to it, hit the little bell, leave a comment, it's super important, and also share it with your friends if you liked it too much. Until next time, kisses.